How can you make the most out of a small mid-century house? If you're struggling to fit the pieces of your life into a snug but sweet mid-century house and worry that your only option is an addition you don't want and can't afford, don't panic. I've got strategies for you. Mid-century houses, particularly built in the early years in the 40s and 50s, are dramatically small by modern standards. Not just in the number of rooms, but in the square feet inside of each space. I'm no stranger to working with snug mid-century houses. I've designed remodels for hundreds of mid-century homes, and I've spent a lot of time developing strategies and techniques for fitting good living into a relatively small space. The house I'm about to share with you today is, I think, the smallest, the snuggest mid-century house I have ever worked on. And yet I'm absolutely delighted with the solutions we've come up with. Let me tell you, if these folks can make their house fit their life, you can too. So today let's talk about some classic mid-century tough spots. Kitchens with no usable counter space and not enough storage. A back door entry that might have 3 or even 4 doors going into a 3 foot by 3 foot space. Back door, basement stairs, dining room, and kitchen, all into the same corridor. A bedroom too small for modern furniture. And a bathroom so small you can't really do anything in it. This is a small 1953 house in Madison, Wisconsin. Other than a sunroom addition off the back, a 3-season space, nothing had really happened in the house since it was built. My clients are a couple of introverts with a host of hobbies and activities. They garden, can and preserve, cook from scratch, and bake in their very small kitchen, and they love to curl up together and watch a movie or play video games in the same space, but also have room to be apart inside a small house. Now, some people might see this house as a starter home. It is very small, but it's in an ideal location of Madison, close to shopping centers, transit, walkable areas, and parks. They want to stay here. They want this house to last. They came to me looking for a master plan to help them stay in the house forever and fit it to all the activities they want to have in their life. Let's talk about the general problem of a ranch layout with a lot of chopped up, very small spaces. It can be a lot of fun, of course, to think about adding on, of blowing things open, of having an open plan life. But in reality, they're not trying to change everything about their house. They're trying to keep their budget small. They may do some of this work themselves, so we need to think about strategic changes that don't blow the layout or require an expensive addition. This might be your situation as well. Here's the existing floor plan. Often when my team and I draw an existing floor plan, we don't bother with existing furniture, but in this case, they've gone to some trouble to buy and find furniture that fits their snug space. So we wanted to make sure that we were working with what they have so they don't have to budget to replace it. For example, we wanted to know the exact dimensions of this sofa so that the modifications we made to the kitchen wouldn't encroach on the living room too much and mess up their ability to use this couch. Now, in our 3 schemes, by the way, I always love to use 3 schemes for major areas of the house so we can kind of look at small, medium, and large choices. In this case, our 3 schemes are small, small, and medium, but what we're really playing with is how much or how little the spaces open up to each other, so they could test how that might feel in real life. The Scheme 1 layout we suggest is all about pushing and pulling spaces. Here, we're borrowing room from the entry and living room to give to the kitchen, and we're trying to open up pinch points across that tiny hallway between the kitchen, across to the dining room, and out to the backyard. In Scheme 2, we're opening up a lot of walls, but in a structurally sensitive way. Here, the new and key connection is between the living room and the central room that had been operating as dining area / project room. This transition really connects the house from front to back, and it encloses the existing screen porch from a 3-season room into a 4-season room. Along the other axis, creating a view through the staircase by replacing walls with slats means that you can have a conversation from the kitchen across to the dining area. Our 3rd scheme is the go big option where we move the stairs. This is a budget-busting move. In some cases, a big Scheme 3 move like this turns out to be what the client actually wanted all along. It solves a problem they weren't even really believing they could solve. In other cases, it helps us rule something out and Goldilocks back down to the ideal moderate solution. So how do you deal with it if you've got one of those classic super tight hallway spaces? Well, in some cases we relieve the pressure. We can open up doors into doorways. Just taking out swing space can open up the space. In other places, creating view-through connections make a small space in floor plan feel less constricted in your experiential reality. And in other cases, we just move part of the thing away, move the outside door out into the 4-season room, so it's not part of that tiny, tiny hallway. A 1-person galley kitchen is also a classic mid-century problem. If this feels like your house, let's talk about how to solve it. I'm going to focus on the first 2 schemes, which are our tweak solutions. We're not changing walls, we're not moving surfaces. It's still a galley kitchen, but it's one that works much better. In Scheme 1, we sneak the fridge out of the kitchen footprint and move it into the entry space, framing around it, and also removing the door closure between the kitchen and the entry. So there's more of a look around the corner relationship with the front living room. Along the main exterior wall, there's a lot of practical workspace with no upper cabinets in front of it, but we're also keeping the kitchen sink in the same spot lot, so this is more of a DIY-able replace project that doesn't necessarily require a whole bunch of different services to come in and work on it. In scheme 2, we blow out the chimney stack, and this allows us to put a counter depth refrigerator and a little bit of workspace on the inside wall, focusing that outer facing wall as a super flexible space where entry closet is replaced with could be entry storage, could be pantry storage, as it needs to be, and it sort of transitions into kitchen more and more as it hits towards the sink. Although our scheme 3 was our kind of go big and probably don't go home option for this client, it contains one of my favorite details, this little entry built-in, which replaces the closet with 2 full entry storage units and a tiny little window seat that's so cute. Interestingly, scheme 3 actually preserves the separation between the front of the house, the living room and the entry, and the kitchen. It still has a doored doorway, but that's because we're blowing out so much of the back of the house. Moving the stairs means we've got a kitchen that moves back and forth across the back side of the house rather than in its little galley format. Let's talk about the challenges of a mid-century bedroom. They're often so small they don't fit modern furniture. While we sometimes have clients telling us they need to fit in a king, in this case they were happy with the full, but they just wanted a little bit more breathing room. One of my first suggestions for furnishing a mid-century bedroom is to use mid-century furniture. It's sized for the space, smaller bedside tables, smaller bed frames. It may be the solution you need. Another classic frustration in furnishing a mid-century bedroom is an offset window that makes it hard to put a bed headboard and tables in front of. One trick for that is to run classic mid-century pinch pleat curtains across the whole wall, even where there's not a window, and disguise the gap with a wooden or even a fabric valance above. Going a little further though, scheme 2 allows us to make a really big transformative change to the bedroom without changing the rest of the layout of the house. This scheme contains 2 of my favorite moves to change a small bedroom without making it any bigger. The first one is, since we've got 2 egress appropriate windows inside of this room, we could replace the one behind the bed with a higher one, more like a clear story that runs horizontally and almost acts like a second headboard framing the room. This is good for privacy, gives you a lovely view out, and creates balance. Matching that with a built-in headboard and wall-mounted side tables makes the most of a small floor area. Then, cutting out the closet completely and replacing it with a built-in that's mounted against the back wall means 2 things. One, you get better access to everything that's happening inside of that closet space. The standard contractor shelf and rod closet is the least effective way to put storage into a space. It's only done that way because it's quick and cheap and easier for the builder, not for you, the homeowner. So having drawers below and high storage separated and then hanging space in between is a much more effective way to use that space. Framing a 2-foot deep built-in right against the wall means you don't have the extra 5 inches of wall surrounding the closet. 5 extra inches of floor space inside of a bedroom may not be worth it in most situations, but in this bedroom, we're dealing with something snug enough that they will feel the difference. And then there's the classic snug mid-century bathroom. This is a variation on the theme, again, one of the smallest. The original vanity was probably a wall-mounted sink-only unit. Had been replaced with a pedestal sink by the time these owners came on the scene. Here are 2 options for this space. So we've got a wall-mounted, shallow custom vanity, and we're using a tiny shelf that runs across above it to keep clutter up off the vanity surface. Then another shelf for more things, lotions, or artwork, and we're hanging our towels. Everything is up off of the surfaces in this situation. A combination mirror and medicine cabinet gives you a few more places to put things away. Jumping up to scheme 2, we have to kill the linen closet to move the door, but this gives us room to run a vanity across the entire back wall of the bathroom, still using a shelf mounted on the wall above the counter to keep clutter up off of that surface. Here I'm using a framed medicine cabinet and just a simple flat mirror against the wall. This gets you more mirror area for a relatively small cost. In general, there are a number of things you want to pay attention to when you're trying to make the most of really small spaces in a mid-century house. First, you want to get really creative with your built-ins. Built-ins everywhere, and possibly replacing framed closets with built-ins is going to save you crucial square footage and also just give you better access to all of your stored items. In bathrooms, you want to wall mount those vanities. All your built-ins should be up off the floor, which gives the space an illusion of just a little bit more storage. It gives you, frankly, a little bit more space to shove things away underneath them, although it'll look clearer if you don't. Also, wall mounting your bathroom vanities gives you an extra bonus. Put an always-on or a motion-censored light underneath the vanity for evening time light to walk into the room in the middle of the night without getting blinding light in your eyes, but having room to see what you need to see inside a bathroom. In the kitchen, you also want to use your built-ins very effectively. Rather than the classic mid-century original builder quality version of base cabinets with wall cabinets above them, you want to try to gather your storage in pantry style full floor to ceiling cabinets where you can, and then just have base cabinets with enough working space and headroom, particularly in a galley kitchen. If every linear foot of your counter space has wall mounted cabinets above it, there's nowhere for you to lean in and get work done. In those pantry storage areas, creating some recessed niches for like a coffee station or splurging on a counter depth refrigerator can make the difference between a functional kitchen space and one that doesn't work. Spend money on an appliance to save the cost of pushing out the footprint of your whole whole kitchen. Another thing to keep in mind in a snug mid-century house, particularly one with a layout that was designed just by a random mid-century builder rather than an architect, is don't be afraid to move a doorway, to cut a new opening where there was never one, or to slide a door over by 2 feet or 4 feet, or to create a different connection that you've got. Or to blow open a framed door opening so it's full, open to the ceiling, and open from wall to wall to get just a little bit more sense of connection between the spaces. When you're thinking about the floor plan in a house like this, pay attention to pinch points, places where you're constantly going through, where you're bumping into people, where you experience crowding, or where you can see from the plan too many doors are all dumping into the same small hallway. How can you relieve that pressure in any direction? And take a look for rooms that can multitask. Can it be an office and a guest room? Can it be a dining room and a project room? Moving furniture around or having movable furniture, planning your layout openings so that a room can do 2 tasks at 2 different times of day or 2 different seasons of your life can really empower you to work small within the existing footprint of the house. How much we want to connect different rooms versus keep them separate is a personal choice that's going to depend on you. For more on thinking through that, you might want to check out this video where I talk about the benefits and costs of an open plan layout and how you can use screen walls, knee walls, or window style openings between the house to create sense of connection without too much openness, or where you might want to just keep your walls intact. And as always in a Midwestern house, don't forget about the basement. In this case, we were able to fully sacrifice what was once the 3rd bedroom, but they were using it as a dining room. This house still officially will have 3 bedrooms because we're framing in a legal egress window in the basement. They're going to be using that space as an office, but it acts as a 3rd bedroom that will functionally keep this as a 3-bedroom house, even though they now have so much more social area on the main floor. This project just wrapped up its final schematic drawings, so the clients have chosen the combination of things they wanted and we put together their final drawings. Ultimately, most of the choices they made were to make smaller decisions and smaller moves rather than bigger ones, and this is such a great outcome in my opinion. Some of my favorite master plan projects are actually the ones where we're able to suggest how the client can do even less than they might have originally planned to, but get a better result out of it. My philosophy and the master plan method are completely agnostic as to the scale of the cost of the eventual remodel. Unlike in a design-build framework where the cost of design is rolled into the eventual cost of construction, or a pricing model where the designer takes a percentage of the overall construction costs, at the end of the day, the mid-century master plan process is only interested in the right solutions for you. So a project like this one, where we're using design thinking to figure out how to do the least construction necessary to achieve their goals, is the perfect outcome. If you're curious as to how this kind of master plan thinking could be applied to the challenges you're experiencing in your house, I'd love to talk to you about it. Learn more about the master plan method by going to midmod-midwest.com/masterplan. And reach out and schedule a call so I can talk about how we can use creative design solutions to solve the problems you've got in your house. I can't wait to see how this project comes together. They are also going to be breaking it apart into several phases, things they need to do now and things they'll do in the future. They'll use their master plan vision to make sure that nothing they do in phase 1 will stop them from taking care of business when they come back around to phase 2. This project is proof that a small house doesn't have to be too small if we can use every part of it properly. Now, this design ultimately is going to involve removing a lot of original mid-century elements. The kitchen built-ins weren't in great shape, the bathroom had already been remodeled, so we're not losing too much. But if you are in a different situation with a house full of mid-century character you don't want to lose, but that still needs some changes made, stay tuned because I'm going to talk about a situation just like that in my next video. Mark your calendar for next week.